Welcome to Retail's Most Wanted, the podcast that examines the latest issues related to organized retail crime and how retailers and policymakers are fighting back against today's organized crime syndicates. I'm your host, Marty Carpenter, and coming up on today's show, we'll talk with Melissa Wacha. She's the Director of Asset Protection Operations and Investigations at Meijer. With over 20 years of retail experience, Melissa has developed effective leadership strategies to protect assets and ensure operational excellence. It's a great conversation, and it's coming up right after this word from our sponsor. Retail's Most Wanted is brought to you in partnership with LVT, securing physical environments through intelligent automation. Learn more at lvt.com. That's lvt.com. Welcome to Salt Lake City. Is this your first trip here?
First time in Utah.
Okay.
Handful of states left on the list, and this was one of them. So really excited to be here.
Well, the clouds rolled out yesterday, so now at least you can say you've seen the mountains. If you haven't seen them yet, you should be able to see them when you leave. And you had a full moon this morning too, if you wanted that. So that's all nice. All right, let's talk a little bit about Meijer. And I think it's interesting because there are pockets of the country where household name, and then there are parts of the country where you guys aren't. And so maybe tell us a little bit about the company to start off.
Yeah, so Meijer is a grocery store chain, really focuses in on a supercenter format, although we've had some exciting moves in market and grocery format stores and also in the convenience space. But we operate within 6 states in the U.S., about a little less than 300 locations. And as a family-owned business, we really pride ourselves on service to the customers and our communities. And so we are able to give a little bit of that personal touch and something special to our customers that we serve in those states.
So how does Meijer approach ORC prevention and investigation?
So when it comes to how we think about ORC prevention and investigation, I think, the one of the biggest tools that we have is our people. And so how do we continue to educate, create awareness, and galvanize our workforce around theft the right way? Safety is always important. And so we look at that from multiple lenses. What do we need to be doing at our corporate office, or how should we be speaking to our team members who operate at the store, whether I'm a part-time team member working 20 hours a week, or I'm a store director in charge of a 200,000 square foot supercenter. So again, through how we message our teams, the types of training that we create, what do we want our in-store asset protection professionals to be talking to, and how are they speaking to them? That's a really key component about how we educate people about what ORC really is. And I think the other thing that we focus in on a lot when it comes to organized retail crime is the tools that we have. And so whether that's existing technology, really looking into how we can be involved with some emerging technology that's coming out there. And that could be in all forms or fashions, right? That could be hardware to a physical camera that uses computer vision behind the screen, or whether that's a piece of software that can provide us real-time alerting or create a repository for all types of information and data that we gather through all of our investigations.
Tell me a little bit about how you collaborate with law enforcement. That's so important for anyone really in the retail space and the grocery business to say, we've got a problem, but we have to work with law enforcement to address it.
I think that the key to success there is talking to law enforcement at all levels with all members of your team. And so really where you're going to be able to create the most impact is at the local level. And so we really focus in on what do we expect of our AP teams in the stores? How should they be interacting and at what frequency with their law enforcement partners to get them to understand what are they currently seeing, what are they seeing in the trends, or what are some bigger cases that they're working on? And that's the same thing as we go through at the state level and even up to the federal level. And I think, where we really lean in quite hard is with our organized retail crime investigators that we have really forging those partnerships at the state and federal level. So when you think about the Attorney General's office or even federal agencies such as the U.S. attorneys or the FBI or Homeland Security, I think it's just really important that everybody is involved and doing their part on every level to understand, what are those things that are happening at a federal level that may not matter to us today as Meijer being in 6 states, but it's something that we could expect to see in the future. But then also, again, at the local level, just being able to understand where are those nuanced opportunities happening that may be only impacting a segment of our communities in our footprint.
Yeah. Tell me about how technology plays into this, into your asset protection strategy.
it's the foundation of everything that we do. In my time at Meijer, what I've really been focused on, and the company has been doing an excellent job, I think, leading in this space already, but is one of the terms I use is how do we create this one single ecosystem in order for us to investigate and do our jobs? Being in this industry for over 20 years, one of the biggest opportunities that we've had is that we have single solutions that operate in a silo. So you could have a solution for one thing and then another solution that does another thing. But the problem is they don't connect. There's no integration there and they don't talk, which creates a problem for the end user or the retailer in that our hourly team members are having to interface between and toggle between different softwares, and we could have a law enforcement partner in the room that's investigating a very serious crime. And in order for us to get the video, to get some of the exception reporting, to get information out of our POS systems, we're toggling between multiple pieces of software, which slows down law enforcement's ability to impact that case. And so what we've really been focused in on is, again, how do we create that single pane of glass, if you will, where I look to one place and it's going to give me all of that information and package up these investigations or these cases quite nicely, whether that's for our law enforcement partners or for the corporate office or et cetera. So when I look at technologies, when I'm out at conferences and trade shows and, listening to solution providers, it's can you help continue to enable and accelerate that path for us on that single ecosystem? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the people that are using the tools that make us successful. And we always want to keep our stores and corporate partners at the forefront of that.
Yeah, getting technology or different technology solutions to communicate or interact with each other is an important thing, as you just mentioned. I wonder how that extends into dealing with multi-state or more multi-jurisdictional ORC cases. It's the same essential principle. You've got to get groups that are not necessarily connected, but working on a solution to work together. How does that play into what you're doing at Meijer? What challenges do you face when investigating multi-state or multi-jurisdictional cases?
Yeah, it's always going to be a challenge. And I think for some of the basic reasons that a lot of people may think is that you'll have some jurisdictions that are maybe in a more metro environment or experience types of crime more frequently. So their detectives or even the officers that are responding at the store level may have more experience in it versus some other towns that may have never seen this type of a crime before. And so there's the education piece that I think as an asset protection professional that we're continuing to have to provide for people to understand what we're seeing in the landscape. So how do we educate them so that everybody is on the same playing field in terms of their understanding of what actually occurred? And then going back to the technology pieces, how do we pull together all of that evidence between whether it's, 3 stores that are impacted or 150 stores that are impacted and those corresponding law enforcement agencies that support those 150 stores? How do you get that put together that it's cohesive, it's consistent, and it's all the same information? Now, the store's information is going to be different, but everybody's got the right video clip. Everybody's providing the same consistent report or document that's used as part of the evidence in the case. And so we really work through that with our investigations team as really outlining the governance and what those expectations are. And the great thing about the way that we're structured at Meijer is that our ORC investigators are pretty much locked down to a specific state. So understanding what those state requirements are to help the local agencies, our ORC investigators really help lead that message down to the stores to be able to provide the right information. But I think you're always going to be challenged in this space. So the what our call to action is how do we stay ahead of that? And I think that's through identifying these tools and technologies that can really help support us on that journey. So that way these cases become much less difficult to manage.
I love a good success story. So I'm wondering if you have a success story about when your team's investigation led to a significant ORC case resolution.
I would have to say it's a case that was worked on prior to me coming on board with Meijer, but we officially closed it out in my time at Meijer, is that we had an opportunity with our loyalty platform where we identified an individual that was getting credentials, login credentials of other systems and platforms, buying them off the dark web, if you will, and taking those credentials and start cross-referencing them with our loyalty programming to see, hey, is that username and password the same? And when they did find those, they were turning around and selling that information off. And so people were gaining access to our the loyalty perks that some of our honest customers had amassed. in order to pay for things that they needed for other uses. And so that was a $1 million case for us here at Meijer. And where we won there, specifically since this individual was operating out of the state of Michigan, where we are headquartered, the partnership there with the Attorney General's task force, which is made up of investigators from the Attorney General's office. You've got organized retail crime investigators with both the Michigan State Police and the AG's office, and then more recently we've had federal collaboration from the FBI. That unit, and they're here with us today at this conference, so you can tell the partnership and the strength between us is their ability to listen to what the facts of the case were, be students of the trade, if you will, and really understand what the problem was, to then pull together how we were going to address this individual, what were we going to do, the tools and the tactics that we were going to be able to use to be able to fully prosecute this case. And like I said, we reached a favorable verdict there, and currently have nearly all of what we've lost in a position where we can get that back. And I don't think we would have been as successful as we were or been able to work as fast as we were without those two law enforcement entities working together to help us put the case together and bring it to a resolution.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with you on this. What emerging trends do you see right now in ORC that you're most concerned about, and what are you doing at Meijer to prepare for those without tipping your hand?
It's going to be in the same vein, as brick and mortar retailers are now coming on into the omnichannel space, right? Doing digital offering, whether that's ship to home, ship to store, pickup, delivery, using all these types of digital platforms and to be able to reach more people more quickly, that creates a whole new set of opportunities. And so whether that's bad actors figuring out ways to infiltrate third-party fraud solutions, or being able to still do some of the older tactics such as account takeovers, or continually being able to create new accounts that just happen to, beat you on your exception rules or fraud rules, if you will. They're challenging us every single day. And as more customers embrace that digital way to shop, which was really accelerated through COVID, right, where I didn't want to go into a store and I wanted the delivery to my home, that has continued to grow, I think, for all retailers at scale. And so how do we, instead of thinking about that individual that's coming into our store, who are those people that are hiding behind the computer that are doing things with such speed and scale? It's just unfathomable. How do we prepare ourselves and set ourselves up there? And so that's something that we're continuously at Meijer talking to our operations partners in the digital space. So the people that own that business, what do we need to be able to do to better help support them to keep that business profitable? How do we continue to educate our C-suite on what those opportunities are is key. And just reading and benchmarking with a lot of other retailers in terms of coming together instead of remaining divided on what those opportunities are and how we can work together as a unit and create one singular voice out there, whether that's just solution partners and law enforcement, on what it is that we're seeing. So that way we can finally turn the tide and get ahead of this, and be able to shut these bad actors down on the online space.
That's it for this episode of Retail's Most Wanted. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, LVT. And don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so you can catch each new episode. We drop a new one every 2 weeks. We're also on X, we're on LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube. Thanks for being with us, everyone. And as always, keep up the good fight.